Oh, here we go. City rallies, y'all. My favorite aspect to Rise of Kingdoms. I run more city rallies than anybody. I am not kidding you. I literally run more than anybody, and I'm going to show you how to run them, how to do it the right way, what to check, what to make sure you've got, and also go through a checklist of what to do. This is the video that's gonna show you the art of the city rallies, because if you follow my streams and you see my videos, nobody does more city rallies than I do. So stick around while we go through all of this madness right now. Hey everybody, I'm your boy War Daddy Chadsky, and you are watching me rally this city. This was in Kingsland over the weekend, and I believe this is a player, I can't remember, it's from one of the enemies that we were fighting against. They've got a Gorgo Hera on the wall, I've got an Attila Subutai, I am cooking it. Okay, and so when you're doing these city rallies, you can see this guy bubble. There's all kinds of different ways that people run these things, and I'm going to give you the tips and the things you need to understand when it comes to running city rallies, when it comes to inflicting as much pain as possible on the enemy. You can see here again, I got to sped up a little bit, but you can see I am cooking this Gorgo Hera. You can kind of see how this thing lays out. I run city rallies all the time. I love to run it with Attila, and that's the first thing we're going to talk about in this, okay? I'm going to let this video keep playing, and we're going to pull this thing up, and I'm going to give you a city rally guide. Are you ready? Because the first thing we're going to talk about is the commanders, okay? And so when it comes to the city rally, we're going to talk commanders first, all right? So let me take this rally, and I will pull this off. We'll go into game, and we'll look at our commanders. You have all kinds of different rally commanders, all kinds, okay? Early game, you got Mina, right? You could run rallies with Mina. You can even run rallies with Guan. People forget that Guan is like a rally commander. That's what's crazy. Like, people forget that. He's got a conquering tree. It's like, what? But early in the game, you can do it with Mina. A lot of people skip Guan, so you're never going to get him. We used to have XY in the game. You have all these different commanders that you can run rallies with. Now, when you get into the late game, okay, the best city rallies you can run, Attila. Attila now with Subutai is phenomenal. Of course, we know that it's great for structures, but for high power cities, Attila Subutai, it cooks, man. It absolutely cooks. On the archer side of things, you guys know that I like playing with archers, and I love it when archers rally big players. Having Ashe, and now having Ashe obviously with Henry, and then having Shapur is going to give you an opportunity. I don't even have Shapur unlocked here, to be a great city rally, especially for high power cities. So archers have their city rally set up. Infantry, you're going to run Smite, baby. You're running Scipio Emilianus, and you're running them with William Wallace, okay? Until we get another Smite commander to put with Scipio Emilianus, that's what you're going to run with Smite. Now, in artifact KVKs, you can switch it around. You can do all kinds. You can put Attila behind Scipio Emilianus for you infantry players. For us cavalry players, we probably wouldn't put SA behind Attila because we already have Subutai, and that's fine. So there's not really an artifact rally pair for city rallies for Cavs. But you also got other pairs, and we'll talk about Takeda, we'll talk about Ragnar, we'll talk about some others. But for archers, when you think about for archers, when you think about an artifact KVK, you do have some options. Now that you have Shapur, okay, Ashe is really, really good. But being able to put a Nevsky behind Shapur, just max damage, it is really, really good. Nevsky's still doing it. And part of the reason why is because he ramps up the skill damage so freaking high. And so you can put Nevsky with Shapur, or if you've got a great wedge set for your cavalry, you can put Shapur behind Nevsky if you're a Cav player and you have Shapur max 2. So there's all kinds of different ways you can run city rallies. You got to have the right commanders. You can't be kicking up city rallies with Nebu. All right, you can't be kicking up city rallies with Mina in the late game. You can't be kicking up city rallies with Tariq. You know, nobody has a Tariq wedge set for infantry anymore, and you might see one every now and then, but that's not what I would suggest, okay? So the first thing that we think about is the commanders. All right, so the second thing we think about is the gear and armaments, okay? This is very, very important, extremely important. When you come over here and look at your commanders, okay, you gotta have the right gear. You gotta be able, what do I have? Do I have all this on my CC? So anytime somebody hooks up a city rally, okay, you wanna make sure they got good gear. Now, when it comes to the end of KVK and you're invading a zone or you've cut territory, anybody can go rally any smaller player, 40, 50 mil farms, or any 60 or 70 mil player. They don't have to have crazy good gear, but if you really want to go rally a high-end player, 100 million plus player, you got to make sure you've got good equipment, because if you hook up a rally and you got some epic stuff on here and you do not have everything critted and all that stuff, you are basically signing up all the people joining a rally to die with you. Okay, so don't do that. Make sure that you're designated as one of the rally leads to go rally big players. Do not rally big players when it comes to the gear not being up to snuff. You want to have all crit. You want to try to get the awakening high. Even if you don't have it all tier 5, just make sure it's high enough to where you know you're going to do well against some of these city garrisons, because you're going to run into some that are just amazing. Also, make sure you have, and I've got it over here. This is like my Attila set. I've got it on CC. I've been barb chaining, but this is my Attila set that I run. In fact, let's just make this look much better. Okay, let's do this right here, and we'll put this. Let's see, right there. Okay, that looks better. So this is my arch set. And my arch set, when I have fearless and normal damage, this is all about normal damage, which enhances combo. That's why Attila Subutai works really, really well. I've got some counterattack on here. I've got raw stat sticks on here. I've got a counterer. I take 3% less counterattack damage from the city. That's actually kind of quietly good. And so you got to make sure you've got the armaments. You do not want to huck up a city rally and not have your gear on your Attila, or not have your gear on your Shapur, or not have your gear on your SA, your CPO Emilianus, and you got to make sure you're running your best armaments, okay? Because you don't want to hook up something and go rally a 120 million power city, and then you look up and you realize you don't have your armaments on, or you got your second set of armaments on, and you're getting absolutely wrecked. So that's another thing you got to look at. And perhaps one of the most important things to understand about city rallies, and I'll put it up here, is, hold on. One of the other more important thing is you got to assess the situation, okay? Do you have field or do you not have field? That's one of those things that we get into. And when you see these kind of rallies going up, and we'll run this thing up here a little bit. When you see these kind of rallies going up and you want to see if you have field, you can see on this rally here, I'm rallying this Hera and YSS, okay? I am hammering this rally of RSS. This player, he was 300 million power player. He's off tag right now, okay? But you can see we have full coverage of field. He is literally in a zone that he doesn't have territory in. He is imprisoned, which means we have full field. We have as many reigns as we can get, and it's very easy and it is very acceptable to go run it against a 300 million power city. You got to assess that, because if you do not have field, then you've almost got to try to run an Attila to try to get people to swarm you, because even if they swarm you, they're going to take a lot of damage, but you're probably going to get smoked by the city if you're trying to rally a high-powered player when you don't have field. You can't get reinforcements at that point. If you can't get reinforcements, you're going to slowly die and your rally's not going to do very well, okay? I've run a gazillion of these rallies, and you can see this player, 279, we are rolling this player. And so from that standpoint, make sure you know if you have field or not. That's very, very important. Another thing I love to do when it comes to rallies, okay? You make them make a mistake, all right? That is a big thing, and I'll shrink this up just a little bit. That's a big thing for me. Sometimes when you're fighting in a pass 7 situation, sometimes when you're fighting in a territory battle of an open zone, right? You'll get players that are off tag from the enemy, and there's intense fighting going on, and sometimes I'll go clear it with our war leads, like, hey, let me rally this guy. He's off tag. Let's let him make a mistake. And they'll say, go ahead, Chatsky. And I'll put up the rally. And what happens more times than not, you'd be surprised, even if somebody is off tag, but they're on coalition territory, all they have to do is switch alliances and the rally stops. However, I have seen it time and time again where they're trying to switch and they switch to the wrong alliance, or they can't get accepted into the alliance that they're actually sitting their city on, and they make a mistake. So I always subscribe to the notion that you force the issue. You make them make a mistake. You make them do everything right, and you force them to do things right, because if they make a mistake, you can get a ton of deads on these players, okay? So that is always you guys have heard me on stream say it a lot. Like, let's just go put a rally on him. Let's see if he's paying attention. And if he's not paying attention, sometimes they're out in the field. They don't even realize they're being rallied. And even if they're paying attention, they can still make a mistake. Okay, so forcing them to make a mistake, even if they're able to correct it and change tags and cancel your rally, no problem. We'll go back and we'll keep fighting. And so that's one of the things I love to do. You force the issue and make them make a mistake, okay? Now we're going to talk about the type of player you're rallying against, okay? Under 100 mil, or 110 mil, I should say. When you rally under 110 million, all right, and you guys load this thing up, we talked about this. When you get to under 110 million, you can see this in my KVK I'm finishing up in. We have stratagems over here. And if you look in the stratagem shop, there is a kind-hearted. This thing allows you to enhance your hospital capacity. It will run your hospital up to 1 million to 110 million, okay? Your hospital cap at players under 110 million, all right? It's really hard to inflict deaths on them because they have such a big hospital that they can fill up with the troops that they have. And if they're paying attention and they know how to heal during rallies, then your rallies are never going to inflict deaths. That is why when you see cities under 110 million power, you don't want to run high skill damage. All right. You do not want to run high skill or high smite damage, and really high combo damage. Shapur is phenomenal, guys. He's great. But at the same time, that's all skill damage. Skill damage gives more, and in some of these reports I'll show you. Okay, skill damage, let me see. Here's one from RSS. Skill damage gives more slightly wounded, where normal damage, the white numbers, gives more sev wounds. And as you can see, the sev wounds fill up the hospital, and then it gives them deads. All the deads are sev wounds, severely wounded troops that the hospital is overflowed. So when it's only 110 million power, there's really only one combination you can go with. I say only one. Now there's a couple, but it all starts with Attila. Attila doesn't do skill damage, doesn't do combo damage, doesn't do smite damage. He rolls the normal damage and the all damage. That's why he is so painful. And when you do that, even if they're under 110 million, you are trying to inflict as many sevs as possible. That's why Attila Takeda is still so good. After all these years, it's still so good. They both have a museum buff that adds more health and less skill damage taken, okay? And they've also got great skills that enhance all that normal damage. So you can inflict as many sev wounds as possible. Now, the trick is, you're not, if I have a city that's under, let's say 105 million power, and I run Attila Subutai, I'm gonna trade better than an Attila Takeda, but I am not gonna inflict as many deaths because Attila Takeda will inflict the severely wounded. Now, you might not trade quite as well, but the point is you're trying to give them deaths, as many deaths as possible with an overflowed city. So Attila Takeda is really, really good. There's also some other things that you can do when it comes to, where's my boy at? Where is he at? Attila Ragnar. Attila Ragnar, if you don't have Takeda, okay, and you don't want to spend on the dailies to get them, and you don't want to put heads into them, you can run Attila Ragnar. It is wild. He does more damage. This is all great for Attila, okay, and he's got a great buff. He runs some of this healing stuff. He does more damage to cities. He's got a unit cap for the rally. You can run the rally cap up to like 3.7, 3.6, something crazy like that. So you can put so many troops in there. And like I said, this 5-second buff he does on his active skill is perfect for Attila. So Attila Ragnar, really just as good as Attila with Takeda. So you could run Ragnar with Attila. Those are for cities, again, that are under 110 million power. You're trying to inflict as many deaths as possible. Okay. And so that's one of those things that you get into when you're trying to figure out exactly how you want to set up these rallies. All right. Let me come over here and do an over 110 million. Okay. You're rallying cities that are over 110 million power. You got to completely change it up. With Attila, you got to run Subutai. High damage, high combo damage. If you're running infantry, you got to run high damage with Scipio Emilianus, and which obviously he does a ton of high damage, 2,700 damage factor with William Wallace, 2,400 damage factor, plus William Wallace has this really cool skill here where he'll increase the damage of Smite by 40%. You want to run high damage against 110 million power or more. You don't want to run Attila Takeda. Okay, it's just too hard. It's too hard to inflict those 7 wounds when they are such high power. You want to match power for power, and you want to do as much damage as possible. Archers are great. Like, archer commanders are wonderful for high power cities, for 140, 150, 160 million power cities or above. Archers are wonderful. You can use Zuge, but we talked about this. Ash is amazing. Ash is amazing with Shapur. That's amazing. High skill damage. Okay, you're going to do 800 damage for 4 seconds. That's 3,200 damage factor. That's massive damage. All right, now you're not going to quite do as many 7 wounds, but the point is they're so high power, they're going to take deads anyways. It doesn't matter. And so you want to run it. That way you trade better. That way you don't send too many of your own troops to die and all that. Okay, now we're going to talk about rallying. Let's see here. Rallying over 350 million power players. It can be done. It can be done. Do not worry about that because it happens all the time with me, all right? People ask me all the time, like, do you rally players that are over 300 million power, or 350 or 400 million power? You got to be very, very careful. My advice is that you do not run skill damage commanders, okay? Or not, you don't run archers and skill damage commanders. The reason why at 450 million, okay, is because they have such a hard time taking skill damage. If you go up against a garrison like I did against Lion, and your garrison is Eleanor with YSG, and it's 1 billion power or 500 or 600 million power, you can run archers, okay? I'm not saying you can't run them. You can run archers to kind of match that all damage, the skill damage that they do, but you're gonna take so much damage because what happens with cities, okay? You can see the white numbers here. All right, the white numbers for me are about 9,000. The white numbers for them are 20 to 30,000. And the reason why is because no matter how many troops that are in a city, the white numbers are capped. The city can only fight with so many troops when it comes to white numbers. However, when it comes to skill damage and smite damage and all those other types of damage, it scales to how many troops they have total. And so if it's a 500 million power city and they have that many troops, that's what makes this thing work for them, is that you're in a situation to where you can you can scale up the damage you do from your city based on the power that you have. You see, I'm rallying a 200 million power player right here, but anything over 350 million power, you have to go back to everything else. You got to have full field control to have reinforcements. And trust me, even if they're 500, 600, 700, 800 million power cities, you can get them to burn if you have enough reinforcements, and you will trade positive, okay? And from that standpoint, you just have to either match the damage or you have to use a commander that mitigates skill damage, because they're going to do a lot of skill damage when they're that high in power. So just be careful when you're running that 350 or million or more size city. You got to be careful with how you do that. And that's why we always encourage everybody, if you're rallying a 350 million power city or higher, you've really got to be aware that it's going to do massive damage. And so that kind of gives you a guide to how this works. Make sure you have the good commanders. Make sure you got the gear and armaments that are going to be conducive for city rallying. You got to assess if you have the field or no field. Okay, if you just want to run the rally with no support and take a swarm, or if you want to run the rallies in situations to where you have full field and you can rally anybody and get all the troops that you want. Okay, you want to make them make a mistake. I don't care if they're on territory just out of coalition. Run a rally, make them make a mistake. And then we reviewed under 110 million power, Attila with Takeda, Attila with Ragnar, great. Inflict more Sev wounds. Over 110 million power, you want to do more of the archers, you want to do more of the Subutais, you want to do more Scipio Emilianus, high damage to trade better. And then at 350 million or more, just be careful because it's going to do a ton of skill damage to you. You have to have enough defense and enough health on whatever rally you're running so you don't just get completely deleted like we did against Wild Lion, which is great. We kept that rally up for like 3 or 4 minutes. It was crazy, but too many Eleanor procs and too much damage coming from 2 billion power, and our rally literally died even though we were spam filling it. Okay, so now from here, we are going to talk about your checklist. All right, this is very, very easy to understand, but now we're going to talk checklists. Okay, the first thing what we do when we talk checklists, we talked about this a little bit, but not just a situation to where we are, not just a situation to where we have the right gear and armaments. You got to make sure it's equipped, y'all. Sometimes I'll get excited and I'll go run an Attila rally, and then I'll come over here to check the screen and realize he doesn't have any gear or armaments on. You got to cancel the rally. You can't run rallies when that happens. So checklist, always make sure you're checking your gear and armaments. Make sure you have your best set of armaments on, and that's how that works. The other thing you want to make sure and do, this is very, very important as well, is you want to check your city skin. This happens to me all the time. I fight with this right here. Okay, it's the new Xena city skin. 16% troop attack. It's great. I used to fight with the 12% troop attack one. It's great. But if I'm running the rally and I really want to do some damage and trade well against a city, I got to make sure and put on the 15% cavalry defense. I don't have the 15% health. Okay, I opted out of that one because defense is almost as good as health for cavalry. It's great. Defense is fantastic for cavalry. And so I got to make sure I have this on when I'm running these city rallies, especially against high-powered cities. You want more defense, be able to sustain, be able to trade better, because the better you trade against high-powered cities, the more you're going to kill in the end. And that's what makes that thing work. And so people have to understand how that works. Also, the next thing that we'll talk about is the commander tab, okay? Always check your commander tab in your checklist, all right? Let me hide this real quick. I'm gonna hide this. Okay, up here in the corner, you click on your icon up here, and then you come down here and you've got commander view. These are what's called your commander tabs, all right? You make sure your lead rally has one of two of these. You do troop defense and troop health. That's what you do. I'm running rallies on cities. I'm running Attila Subutai. I'm putting Attila with the troop defense and health, just an extra %. And I'm running Subutai with the health at 1%. That's my recommendation. Always make sure you're checking your commander tabs, okay? A lot of people don't know to do that, or they forget, and even I forget. And somebody's got to remind me in voice, Chatsky, check your commander tabs. Oh my gosh, you're right. I can't believe it. So be sure you do that. The next thing that we'll talk about is, and people always ask me, what kind of rune do you get? Okay, we're talking about runes. And when you have runes, all right, you get yourself in a situation to where, especially in new tech KVKs, you can supply your own runes, right? For rallying high power cities, I always go with a 10% health, a 10% defense, or sometimes a 7 and 7. You can really do health or 7 and 7. Those are like my favorite two to run super high power cities. Okay, when you're rallying what we mentioned, the 110 million or below, you want to rally and do as much damage as possible, as fast as possible. You run the troop attack one. Okay, troop attack. You're doing all attack. You're going full in on attack. You're trying to create as many Sev wounds as possible. You're not worried about what the trade is. When you get them below 110 million power, Attila Takeda, Attila Ragnar, inflict as many deads as you can, and you do that with more and more attacks. So that's kind of your checklist on what kind of a rune to run. All right, let's go to the next thing. Skills and stratagems. This is something that's very, very important. If you are in HA or you're in Orleans and you have support skills or auxiliary skills, make sure you have the right skills equipped. If you're in Heroic Anthem and you have support skills, you want to make sure you look up and you have, let me see here. They'll have Belisarius sometimes where he does 25% more damage to troops with less than 50% remaining. That's amazing for rallies and rallying cities. You inflict so much damage, especially when that trade really starts to turn in your favor. If you're rallying high-powered cities and you get them below 50% HP, that is where this thing kicks in. So always make sure you've got the right skills, auxiliary skills, or support skills. And in addition to that, just like we're in here in our King of All Britain KVK, we have these stratagems. Well, if you'll notice on here, I have the two stratagems that are rally and garrison stratagems. It does 20% more counterattack, okay? Those are the only two stratagems, this one and then the enhancement to this, it makes it 30%. These are the only two stratagems that enhance rallies and garrisons. It's the only two. And so if you find yourself as a rally player and you don't have these two stratagems equipped, okay, you're running other stuff instead, like rousing drums and rhythm of war, you're running that instead. You want to make sure you're running and switch your stratagems up if you're going to start rallying cities. You want to run the counterattack up. The beauty with the counterattack is that if they swarm you for whatever reason, because they're trying to protect their buddy from being zeroed, they're going to take so many deads. It's crazy. Okay. And so in addition to that, always check your skills and your stratagems. In addition to that, let me come over here. Grab this, kingdom title. You're going to want one of the kingdom titles, okay? The kingdom title, the king is going to be online, the general is going to be online, somebody is going to be online, and you're going to be able to get the kingdom title. You can see PTI's got general right now, okay? General gives you an extra 5% attack and 5% defense, all right? The king title, I wonder where, I can zoom out here. If we look up, where is our king? Where's Akina? Where is this guy? The king title gives you 5% attack, 5% defense, and 5% health, okay? Raven has got the king title right now. But look, you get 5% attack, defense, and health. You're going to want, from the king, rarely are they going to give you the kingdom title, okay? If you're a rally player. Unless you're in leadership, they'll give you the king title for the extra buffs. But you're going to want, more than anything, you're going to want the general title. If you can't get general, you either want Duke or Justice. Those are the only two combat related titles that you can get: Duke, Justice, or General. You launch a rally, I've checked my gear, I've checked my rune, I've checked my commander tab, my city skin, I've got my support skills on, I'm good. You get on voice and you say, can somebody give me Duke? Can somebody give me General? Can somebody give me Justice if you have it free, so I can get more stats to run this rally? And Good Kingdoms will make sure those are available, okay? And we'll go on to the next one, because the next one's probably one of the most important things. Switching tags. Gotta switch tags. I made the mistake when I rallied Wild Lion. I did not switch tags. Switching tags is really, really easy. Basically what you do, all you got to do is go in here and look at your coalition. You can apply to any one of these. And you rally players out there, you already should do this in KVK. You already should go early in KVK, like in Zone 4 when you're not fighting. Go to these alliances and ask for automatic approval. Okay, you're on the pass list, which basically means I can leave IN, and then the minute I apply to 1719, I'm already in the alliance, and then I can launch the rally from there. The reason why is because when you're rallying any kind of city, or really any kind of structure, this is just rally 101, is that you're in a situation to where you do not want to be in the same alliance. The reason why is because you can see here, I'm rallying from INE. You can see that, or INR. I'm rallying from a different alliance. The reason why is because when people reinforce you, okay, it's mostly players that are in the main alliance IN. So you want to switch tags and be in a different alliance. That way, you see this player reinforcing me, they're not taking AoE damage. Okay, so players reinforcing you don't take AoE damage when you rally from a different tag. Very, very important. You don't want players saying, hey, I'm in, I'm gonna join your rally when you get there, I'm gonna reinforce you, and then you're in the same alliance as they are, and then they go to reinforce and they get caught with the AoE and take instant deaths. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure you switch tags. Super, super important. And then the other thing that I specialize in and I love doing is the rally screen, okay? Rally screen is very, very important. And let me kind of show you here. Let me take this thing down for a second. When you are in the game and you launch a rally, it doesn't matter if you launch a Barb Fort rally or whatever, Okay, let's go just put a rally on this bar for it. When you come over here and do that, let me, what do I have here? I'm going to run it with Huo, and I'll run it with Hera. Okay, so when you launch a rally of any kind, you're going to have your rally screen. You open this up. Now, here's where it's not a lot of fun for you rally players, but this is the best way to do it. You have to have this screen up. And the reason why is because if you're looking for a lot of reinforcements, all right, and it's going to be at especially high power cities where you have to have a bunch of reinforcements, you got to sit here and scan this screen, okay? Because the reinforcements will show up at the top. And if you see reinforcements that are marching to you, okay, and those reinforcements are over like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, you kick them out. So somebody close to the rally can get in quickly. Okay, so that's what's called micro optimizing your reinforcements. If you have a reinforcement that is over 10 seconds or 15 or 20 seconds, you're not going to sit there and wait for them, because that reserves the capacity in your rally for that particular march. And you want people in your rally now. And so you kick them. Nobody's gonna be offended if you kick them and they're trying to march from 20 seconds away. And that's why sometimes when you rally cities, it's not as fun, because you're just on this. You're just on this screen and you're focused and you're trying to get everything done, and you're kicking marches from too far away, and you're letting people get in the rally. That is very, very important. That is your checklist you have to do when you are rallying cities. And when you do it and you do it right, you start getting really, really good reports when it comes to this. Let me see here. You start coming down here and you start seeing some of these different rally reports that we get. Just crazy. There's the wild line report. That is not a good report. You know, I had mentioned that I was not in the right, I did not switch tags, but that was a massive rally. So I'm rallying the biggest player in Rock. This is the biggest legit rally that's ever been put in Rise of Kingdoms as far as the player power. Nobody has ever tried to rally a 2.2 million power player. And we took 33 million power off this guy, but we literally could not get it filled because they had massive skill damage, and that scales with the power they have. All right, I'm winning on the whites. Every second I'm winning. But the 2.2 billion power lines up in that skill damage, and it just kills you. Okay, but all the other rallies that we ran, we're just going to crush it. Trading almost 3-to-1 there, trading 3-to-1 here. Like, just go run it and get reports like these. If you run your checklist, okay? If you make sure your gear and armaments are equipped, make sure you got your city skin, make sure you got your commander tab done, get the rune that you need, make sure your skills and your support skills, auxiliary skills, stratagems are all equipped. Get the kingdom title from your leadership. Switch tags so people don't get killed when they're trying to reinforce your rally. And you got to bird dog the rally screen. You got to watch the rally screen and go through that. And if you do all those things, then you're going to have reports like these. And it's going to be the best way to do it. I rally more than anybody in the game when it comes to rallying cities. I put a punishment on cities. I have taken players out of KVK when they're trying to work hard in Kingsland or work hard at a pass 7. I have ripped 20, 30, 40 million power off of players where they can't even field 5 marches anymore. And so from that standpoint, it is very effective. And if you do it right, it works out really, really well. And so just remember this. You can go back and look at all the different chapters of this video, but this is the art of rallying cities. I do it. I am completely certified to talk about this because I've done it wrong and I've done it right. I know what to do and I know what not to do. And even though I've run more city rallies than anybody in the game, I will just tell you, I still make mistakes. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, and make sure you're with a good team on voice that can help remind you of the checklists. Okay. And so from that standpoint, I hope everybody got some enjoyment out of this video. I hope everybody got a little bit of information, and hey, guys, go nuts. I love seeing city rally reports in my Discord. Speaking of that Discord, hit that link in the description. Join my Discord. I've got a reports channel in that Discord. I love seeing city rallies in there. And if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. Hit that subscribe button. Does not cost you anything. And if you enjoy the content and you want to get alerts for more content, hit the bell, and that gives you those alerts. So with all that, hope you guys have a great day and you got a little bit out of this art of the city rally video, and please put a comment down below. I love to interact and go through it, and any questions you have, put down below or put in my Discord, and we would love to help answer them for you. Have a great day, broskies.